important sacrament.
I want to pull up some of the Credo criticisms. Okay, so
I have one here. Yeah.
Well, all right.
I'm waiting for Dr. Hahn to get his next hit piece for endorsing this book.
Okay, so wait, let's go with this. Well, this is all goes back to this and stuff. So, all right. Well, before even that, Rob, let's see. Unless I'm misreading it, Bishop Schneider and Credo seems to be asserting no unbaptized person has human dignity, and 2, anyone who is in a state of mortal sin also lacks human dignity. This seems ... really bad and dangerous in addition to being false. Okay, so this is
who is this that wrote this?
This is the
you know who it was.
No, that was Tom.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was Tom. So is the
Tom.
dignity of this is what Bishop Schneider wrote. Is the dignity of the human person rooted in is the dignity of the human person rooted his creation in God's image and likeness? This was true for Adam, but with original sin, the human person lost this resemblance and dignity in the eyes of God. He recovers this dignity through baptism. He keeps it as long as he does not sin mortally. So that's what Nick was getting into when he said the word dignity, or Rob, is it you maybe saying, what do we mean by the word dignity there?
Right. Schneider is using dignitas in like the old like Roman sense, which was like a moral standing. It's your moral standing. It's not like your identity as a human being.
It doesn't mean you're worthless.
Right.
It means you lost something through original sin. Adam loses something through original sin, right? So it's okay. So I think Protestants view original sin as a stain on the soul, where Catholics view original sin as a lacking of God's grace in the soul.
Well, I'd say it's both. So it's like in the sense, well, it depends again what you mean by certain things, but yeah, like the stain in the sense that like we are going to have like the niggling vestiges of.
Oh,
like,
Nick,
can't use that word.
Wow.
What word?
Oh my goodness.
What word? Vestiges? No.
Yeah.
What?
The way you said it just sounded like
we're just making a joke.
It just sounded a little.
I was like, what's wrong with that?
David L. Gray's coming for you now, man.
I don't even know who that is, but all right.
I don't know who that is. All right, let's go again. Let's do the niggling thing.
Short. Like, did I trespass upon like so?
No, we just thought it was a funny line. Okay. What did you call me?
I'm so confused. Okay, whatever. Yeah, my point is, so like we have, through original sin, when it's forgiven in baptism, we still, of course, have a certain amount of its effects, right? So we have, a darkened, the remainder of a certain darkened intellect, a divided will, inflamed passions, things like that. And it's, again, forgiven. I'd say Bishop Schneider is completely correct. The problem is that I think that, and I thought I saw it in one of the questions that you pulled up, Rob, so many people are looking at this concept of dignity through Immanuel Kant's lens.
Yes.
And that is a problem because they're getting this from primarily an incorrect view of sin itself. So this is what's so interesting. So many modern catechisms and modern faith formation programs, and I can say this as a catechist for almost 4 years now, what they'll do is they'll say, what is sin? And they'll say, it's a wounding of man's dignity, right? Which is so like, okay, this is a 7th grader. Like, what is like, how is that?
They're actually saying the same thing that Schneider's saying.
Well, but see, this thing, what they mean by the sin, though, is that they're emphasizing the fact that, like, man's dignity, I don't think they're saying is rooted in the concept of sanctifying grace. Because where they're getting their idea of sin comes from is they're not focusing on the reality that sin is first and foremost. Yeah, it's an injustice against God. It's an injustice against God, and therefore we, as his subordinate creatures, of course, have to render that only through Christ, of course, can that be rendered. And so therefore they're looking at this human dignity through a different lens. And I think that's where this criticism comes. But that's where like all theology of the body and JP2's personalism, like so much of it's influenced by, Enlightenment
Listen
style.
to me. I would say when a woman dresses provocatively, she loses her dignity. How can this not be true?
No, exactly.
Right? I mean, if I do something that if I sin in certain ways, of course you lose your dignity. It's undignified. Something is undignified. I mean, come on. This isn't even a problematic thing. I don't understand it. All right, so let's go to the next one. According to Bishop Schneider and Credo, basic human fraternity can only exist between the baptized, who are only persons with basic human dignity, in quotes. I'm really beginning to be not quite sure how Schneider's version of Catholicism is incompatible with abortion or genocide. He's twisting what
That
Schneider
is a
means.
gross interpretation of what he's saying.
So this is what Schneider said. Does Christian humanism radically affirm the dignity of every person as a child of God, thereby establishing a basic fraternity? This is what we were talking about earlier. Right. No, it is the sacrament of baptism that establishes basic human fraternity, for there is no parity between the condition of those who have adhered to the Catholic truth by the heavenly gift of faith and the condition of those who, led by human opinions, follow a false religion. And if anyone shall say that the condition of the faithful and those who have not yet attained to the only true faith is on par, let him be anathema. So that's a dogmatic.
I wonder from what council that is. Let me look at that footnote real quick.
So so look, what he's talking about there, in the way I see it, is he's addressing Francis and the basic sentiment we have in the church right now about human fraternity. Oh, we have to build human fraternity, right? And he's saying, no, you can't have fraternity of man without the fatherhood of God.
Notice how in Lewis, this is from Mike Lewis here. Notice that Lewis gives the footnote 53 says it's a confusing claim with catechism, but he doesn't tell you what footnote 54 is, which is probably a dogmatic statement from a council.
It sounds like Vatican I.
Wait, is that his opinion a confusing claim of the catechism of the Catholic Church, or
no,
is that's the footnote?
That's Schneider's footnote, I think. Let me see if I can find that.
Yeah. Okay. So in other words, what they're trying to do now with the Abrahamic Faith House and with they're trying to build human fraternity, which is a Masonic principle.
Of course.
It's a Masonic principle. Doesn't matter what religion you are. Let's just have a brotherhood of man. And what Schneider is saying is, no, true human fraternity can only exist in the one true religion. It's the only place that it actually can exist. Look, what we're going through right now in the church is a family crisis. What we are in right now is the most dysfunctional family fight that's ever happened, because you have Catholics. I mean, you're talking about people that got upset with me for implying that baptism is how we become children of God, who are Catholics who would consider themselves faithful Catholics. The teaching is so unclear right now that we have such a lack of authority and fathers in the church right now that the children have run amok, and the children are taking that authority on themselves.
So get this. So Lewis and Tom and others are upset at this catechism because they say that it is incompatible with Vatican II and the Pope sense, right?
Of course.
So
that's kind of what we're saying too.
Well, footnote 54 there, Nick was right on. It is Dei Filius from Vatican I, Canon 6. So that is a dogmatic statement from a ecumenical council that Mike Lewis believes is incompatible with Vatican II and the Pope sense.
Well, the thing is like, I mean,
I kind of think so too.
This is where my more spicy takes are, but I mean, yeah, like
it's a different church.
Yeah, like the entire system in and of itself, while there's a lot of good things that you can get from it, like like you were saying a second ago, Anthony, everything is so confusing right now, the teaching is so confusing. I would say like the teaching is not confusing, but the hierarchy is an absolute, and I say this with absolute respect, it's a joke at the moment. It's a complete joke. Like if I, as a teacher, right, who teaches catechism as well as theology classes, if I was to teach in the way that these are being taught right now, no one would get a passing grade. They wouldn't even know what I said. It was just, it's absolutely crazy. But yeah, this is a different religion that's more focused on human fraternity. How do we get everybody to kind of coalesce in kumbaya and, rather than let's build great cathedrals, let's build the great Abrahamic family temple. Like that is the greatest pictorial image that you can get of where the conciliar church is moving to. That's just all that it is.
So here's what kind of baffles me about the Pope splainers, and I mean the Pope splainers who are faithful Catholics, right? These are the Pope splainers who are Pope splainers not because they love what Francis is doing. Pope splainers because they want to respect the dignity of the office of St. Peter.
Yes.
Okay, those people. It's almost as if they think we're enemies of the church, where I think that a lot of trads, it says it in scripture that there is going to be a great falling away. And that St. Paul says, whether I or an angel from heaven preaches another gospel to you, let him be accursed. Like, we look at that and we are just horrified at what we're seeing by them trying to change everything. And we're saying, I don't think it's crazy to think that we are in the great apostasy. If this is not the great apostasy, what exactly is the great apostasy? Because we are seeing every single person fall away from the faith right now. And we're talking about in the church, the hierarchy, still claiming to be Catholic, falling away. I think a lot of people thought the great apostasy would mean people leave the Catholic Church, but the great apostasy is the Catholic hierarchy abandoning the faith.
What would be more cunning from the devil, right? To have everyone just leave the faith, or to reinvent it and keep everybody in the same unit, if you will. I think that this is where, like, that sense of wanting to defend the office of the papacy is a good Catholic sense. You've said it plenty. You guys both said it plenty of times on this show, and that's great because it is a good Catholic sense. The problem, though, is is podcasters really the problem? Or is it the pro-abortion feminist who's in charge of the Pontifical Academy of Life, who was appointed by the Pope, put into that position? Is that the problem, or are we who are just kind of rambling, having a conversation on a Friday night? Are we the problem? Come on, give us a break.
And the thing is, I'm not trying to sow dissent, and I'm not trying to. I'm genuinely confused myself, right? I'm just, and I'm trying to work out my thoughts on air. I am just some dad with a microphone and a webcam, right? So
literally as a dad with the webcam.
I just am. I'm a construction worker and a dad with a webcam, and I think I am like so many other Catholics out there who are struggling with what's going on right now. I'm not sitting here telling everybody this is what needs to be done, this is what the problem is. I'm trying to work this out, and I'm seeing things happening, and I'm saying, I don't know, guys. I hate. Look, I have a bit of apocalyptic phobia myself.
Yes, you do. No, philia, not phobia.
No. Look, all right. So I have a little bit of both. So I like apocalyptomania a bit because it's fun, but I also have a little apocalyptophobia because I don't want to be a cliche trad who's always talking about Fatima, and it's but like Fatima, dude. Like, I don't want to be that guy, but like Fatima, man.
No, it's fair, just because it's like, look, if everything was hunky-dory, we wouldn't even be having these conversations. Look at the people, like, you guys are on Twitter, you guys see it more than I do. Look at the big names who are now calling the synod onto the carpet, like Cardinal Zen, who rightly points out that, like, I don't know if you guys saw the two Chinese bishops that left the synod today, right? They said that they were leaving for pastoral concerns back home. I'm like, they're literally communist appointed bishops who work for the CCP.
It's crazy.
Are they the problem, or is like this imprisoned cardinal who can't even get 5 minutes of conversation with the Holy Father? Is he the problem?
Real quick, Cat Named Mouse, do you want us to just go into some of the more difficult things, or do you want to actually? I would go through.
I'm actually starting a series on Credo next week,
and I don't want to take it from Nick if he's doing it.
I was gonna say, like, the more the merrier. So it's like, this is not a competition. I'm putting it out there for free. So it's like, if you guys want to do something where you like really have conversations about like deep stuff, that's cool. I'm doing this more like let's go line by line. I give my quick thoughts and stuff. So
that's pretty cool. So I think let's let Nick do that, and let's go through all these things that Lewis is complaining about.
Yeah.
Let's go through some of the problematic stuff together right now. We'll do that, and then Nick is going to go line by line for Cat Named Mouse. So, let's see. I'm just a caveman. Your world frightens and confuses me.
That sounds like an Apple podcast review.
Yes, Tom, we are live right now. All right. So what else what does Lewis have in his article?
let's see here. So dignity, human fraternity. Let's see what else he has.
Just as an
He
introvert,
basically-
So he's got the Muslims holding the same faith. He's got that listed.
Let's go through that again.
yeah,
Let's see
I was telling Rob before the show started, actually before you showed up, I got to see that little snippet of your guys' show Back to the Future, because I'm a huge Back to the Future lover myself. So but yeah, no, so it seems like the controversy, let's look at the controversy real quick. Go ahead and
So
read it.
is it so this is from Schneider's Credo. Is it true to say that Muslims hold the faith of Abraham? No, Abraham saw 3 and adored 1. Genesis 18:2-3, and rejoiced in the vision of the future Redeemer. John chapter 8:56, excluding neither Christ nor the Trinity in his faith. Conversely, the Muslim explicitly excludes faith in Christ and the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree.
So my point was, the Muslims are claiming to believe in the God of Abraham.
Yes.
And I agree with that.
Okay. So they're claiming to believe in the God of Abraham, the God who created everything. So unless there's another omnipotent, all powerful being, I'm not saying they I would, and I'm not even saying I agree with this. I'm trying to steel man their argument.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Well,
So
I would say they, as Vatican II says, they profess to hold the faith of Abraham. So they're not professing that they hold the faith that, you could read it that they're professing to hold the faith that Abraham held, or they could be professing that Abraham held the Muslim faith.
So they profess that Abraham held the Muslim faith, but also
faith.
I made the mistake of saying they believe the faith of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But that's totally wrong, because Abraham has 2 sons, Isaac and Ishmael, and they're the descendants of Ishmael.
Ishmaelites.
Yeah, they're Ishmaelites. So it's. I mean, I wasn't even thinking when I said that last episode, but so I am not saying they worship the same. I'm trying to steel man and play modernist advocate. That's what they're saying. They're going to say, unless there's some other omnipotent, all-powerful being who created everything and is all merciful, but the thing is, they don't believe God is love. They're the things that we make, the claims we make about God because God revealed them to us, they would be appalled at.
Well, and even if we remove the revelations from God and just look at God from natural reason, the arguments people were making online, such as the guy from CVS, was that that if you use natural reason, you can come to certain conclusions about one God, and that Muslims believe in that God. But that's not true. Yes, from reason we can conclude God is perfectly simple. He is unchanging. He is all good. Perfectly, all these different things.
Well, you use
Muslims,
the Thomistic principles, right, of the unmoved mover and those things. That's I guess what they're saying.
But Muslims, to them, the power of God is so important to them that they don't believe all those other things about God.
Yeah, so it's like you're going to have certain emphases in like attributes that are going to become flagellated, as well as like their doctrine of Tawheed is going to be so vastly different in so many ways than the Catholic understanding of God. My question is this, so there's that phrase, you might want to look it up, Rob, in Nostra Aetate, because I don't want to be butchering it, but like, doesn't it not say like they adore the one God with us? Because that's my key phrase.
We pulled it up last time, Rob. Pull that up again. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Okay, if they don't worship the same God as us, are they worshiping a God that doesn't exist, or are they worshiping a demonic entity that does exist?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if people want to do a deep dive, check out the Sacra Theologia Summa, Introduction to Theology and Christian Revelation, because it actually gets into the basic discussion of like, what is a religion? A religion is like us clinging to with intellect, and a religion is a relation to a personal being, right? With our intellect and our will. So it's like we recognize that we need God with our intellect, we submit to what he's given, and then we say yes to following him with our will. So go ahead, Rob. Yeah, go for it.
So it says the church regards with esteem also the Muslims, They adore the one God, living and subsisting in himself, merciful and all-powerful, the creator of heaven and earth, who has spoken to men. They take pains to submit wholeheartedly to even his inscrutable decrees, just as Abraham, with whom the faith of Islam takes pleasure in linking itself, submitted to God. Though they do not acknowledge Jesus as God, they revere him as a prophet. They also honor Mary, his virgin mother. At times, they even call on her with devotion. In addition, they await the day of judgment when God will render their deserts to all those who have been raised up from the dead. Finally, they value the moral life and worship God, especially through prayer, almsgiving, and fasting.
Yeah, I'm thinking of so it's paragraph 841 of the CCC, right? The church's relationship with Muslims. It says the plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator in the first place amongst those who are Muslims. These profess to hold the faith of Abraham, and then this is the key phrase, and together with us, they adore the one merciful God, mankind's judge on the last day. Well, the only true
What is that from?
That's from the Catechism. Let's see, paragraph 841, Catechism 841, second edition, so current edition of the Catechism. Now that the Catechism apparently can be changed willy-nilly, but that's another discussion. Anyway, but yeah, so that phrase adore, like together with us, they adore the one merciful God. That's where I'll completely say that's completely incorrect. You guys brought up the other night the Catechism of Pope St. Pius X, right, which I think this argument started to be used really by Mr. Timothy Gordon. I'm not bashing him or anything. That's where I think it's become popular. But the Catechism of Pope St. Pius X doesn't say anything remotely near that. It basically acknowledges the fact that Islam believes in a monotheistic being.
Yeah.
And Pius X, being a good scholastic, is going to understand that that's a personal being. That's all that is.
So I lived in a Muslim country for 14 years. In their prayers, they literally claim that there is no God but Allah. They have a separate word for God, and Allah is a distinct so-called deity. Now, but if you go to Arab Christians, they will call what we would say God, they will say Allah.
But that's because
that's just the word for God.
Well, in Arab, but before they spoke Arabic, they spoke Aramaic, and that's a different word.
Okay, so here's my question. Do they worship a God that does not exist, or is it a demonic entity?
I would say that it's most likely a demonic entity, just because when you take at least seriously the story of Muhammad and also what Muhammad himself claims, you see two accounts. One, when Muhammad's in the cave, right? Has an angel of light appeared to him. And then also by his own descriptions in the hadith, right, which are the kind of oral sayings in the life of Muhammad. Every time he gets a quote unquote revelation, he's twitching on the ground, he is foaming at the mouth, and he's saying, like, it's a very, very intense affair. Of course, this is demonically inspired. St. Augustine is very clear that the only true worship of God can take place inside of the Catholic Church and the Catholic Church alone. How can you call God Father if you do not have the Church for Mother, is what he also says. And so I think that that's demonically inspired, absolutely, because when you also look at it, isn't it convenient that there seems to be whole passages of Islamic revelation which completely abrogate great natural and holy things like child adoption for the sake of Muhammad wanting to marry his son's wife? Convenient. This is exactly what St. Peter says in 2 Peter chapter 2, when he says that false prophets have eyes full of adultery. Same thing with Joseph Smith, right? Joseph Smith happens to have all of these revelations that only he can understand, hieroglyphics buried in New York State, right? Only he can interpret them, then they're magically raptured up into heaven. But then all of a sudden there's a harem of women that are just around him, right? It's the same story with every demonically false prophet. Scripture has said it, and it plays out every day.
So to me, I would say the best argument against Muslims adoring the same God as us is what was the heresy of Marcion? It was that the God of the New Testament was different from the God of the Old Testament, right? In Islam, the later hadiths, I think they're called, of the Quran, after I forget if it's after the trip to Mecca or the trip to Medina. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but hadiths are mostly after just Muhammad's life. But yeah, the whole.
But the later hadiths of the Quran abrogate the first half of the Quran.
Oh yeah. So what you're thinking of is the hadith is separate from the Quran.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
You're absolutely right. So it's
surahs, right. The later surahs.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Because it's later teachings abrogate earlier teachings. Yeah, you're right.
So then the God they believe in is changing and cannot be the same God we adore.
Yeah. Tom says, Tom, it's actually a Nestorian heresy.
A little bit of both.
Both. Yeah, I mean, they're both claiming that Jesus is not God, right?
Not just to mention all of the very, very interesting scientific problems like the sun setting in a pool of muddy water, or sperm coming from the spinal cord, or all kinds of insane things where Muhammad is, marrying a, let's just say, Chris Hansen worthy episode young lady, or wearing women's clothes, or saying that you can like cleanse oneself at the bathroom with an odd number of stones, or you have to dip the fly in the milk so that you can get
that stuff is in there.
That's all in the
dude,
Hadith. This is all in the Hadith. So it's like the Quran.
Yeah, but all right, but you go to Deuteronomy, they got some weird things in there too, dude.
No, everything. The law of the Lord is perfect. It all makes 100% rational sense, and we have entire commentator traditions. When you go over to Muslim nations, there's a lot of Muslims. There's some pretty crazy sheikhs who think you have to do this. And the thing is this: in the Quran, it only mentions Muhammad 4 times. Only 4 times, right? And so there's like a small heretical by Islamic Standard sect of Muslims, which are called Quran-only Muslims, because the Quran says that the standard of conduct is Muhammad. He's like the litmus test. But the only way you know about Muhammad's life is by reading the collections of al-Hadith. And when you go and you read the collections of al-Hadith, you find that this guy, is saying on the one hand, you can marry up to 4 wives, but I have 9, and half of them are underage. And all of these crazy things that I've been saying, whether it's literally dunking the fly or using the stone, or that you can drink camel pee because God will like somehow cleanse it in your palate, or that the sun sets in a pool of muddy water.
Why would you read this?
Because there's a lot of people lost. That's the thing. We got to understand. It's when we're doing these ridiculous ecumenical meetings where we're up there just saying, oh yeah, let's all be buddy. And I'm like, look, this guy's book literally is saying that we can cleanse ourselves with an odd number of stones. That's not the God I worship. That's insane.
I'm going to put a poll up tomorrow that says, did Arius worship the one true God?
He's far closer to it than Muslims.
I know he is. That's my point. And I want to see how it compares to do Muslims worship the one true God?
Joseph is base. They can't eat bacon. That's demonic. 100%.
Yeah, Arius was way closer because he was closer. He believed Christ was. Arius believed Christ is a created being.
Arius even believed the New Testament for the most part. He just had a heretical understanding of the nature of Christ.
Yeah, heretical. Like you could, in a strict sense, say that Islam is like a heresy of Christianity in the strict sense. But then just to you have to again read that catechism passage in context, in the 1960s context. Are they really concerned about scholastic precision, or are they interested in kumbaya spirit? Let's all get together.
The Cathars, Albigensianism, that's a Catholic heresy, but they believe in dualist, a dualistic, basically 2 gods.
Good and evil are equal in power.
Right. So being a Christian heresy doesn't mean at all that they believe in the same God as us.
No, exactly, because it's all it means is that it has its origin in some type of Christian principle, but it's grossly inaccurate now.
I don't even know what that.
I
think I know what it is, but I don't want.
The phrase is "peace be upon him," so he's saying "police be upon him."
But the second part,
yes, I'm not gonna say it.
Look, the thing is that there's plenty out there about Muhammad, and he is the last person on the face of the planet that you'd want to be following as a good moral conduct person. We would have to have an uncensored show if I was just to go off right now about some of the crazy stuff. That I wanted a dubia question submitted to Rome. See if they answer.
Was there any other problematic areas that Mike Lewis brought up? I'm sorry, guys. Please forgive me.
I do think it should be pointed out that Lewis is complaining about the beliefs that Schneider has about Muslims. Schneider lives in a nation of Muslims. Lewis probably hasn't talked to one in.
You ever hear Eric Sammons try to say Kazakhstan?
It's hilarious because it's not a hard word.
What is it?
Not at all.
Eric, it's not difficult.
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Eric, Kazakhstan. It's
You
not
could
that
say
crazy.
Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan. It's not that hard, bud.